Okay, so first topic for my first of the ongoing videos, which are going to be just monologues. I don't have all the fancy editing equipment, so it's just going to be literally me sitting here talking to you in a hopefully entertaining and interesting way. So, I've got my first topic as a result of only one comment, but it's an interesting one and definitely something that could be of interest to many people, and it's certainly a question I get asked a lot. Now, disclaimer, I don't really have much to do with the books I'm about to talk about, other than continuity editing, just to make sure they fit the larger world of the Lethbridge Stewart books and indeed Doctor Who. Um, so yeah, I don't really have any role in the commission of these stories generally, or the character development generally, unless they intersect with stuff that I'm working on. So the question is being posed, and I will now ask it to you. Why should you be reading the Lucy Wilson mysteries? We ask this because they are books aimed at 10 to 12-year-olds generally. Um, they're set within the larger Doctor Who universe, specifically the what we call the LS verse, which is the universe of the Lethbridge Stewart novels. They're set in the current day, minus two. The current day for these series is generally 2019 at the moment. Apart from this book, which is set in 2020 because it's set during lockdown. Um, yeah, so why would you read these when you're an adult? Other than the Doctor Who link, obviously, if you're a fan of Doctor Who, the odds are you will enjoy these books. Um, because although they're written for 10 to 12-year-olds, they tell good, interesting stories. They've got good characters. Lucy is the granddaughter of Lethbridge Stewart. She is the daughter of his illegitimate son he had with Doris during one of their many flings back in the 60s, as mentioned, however, briefly in Planet of Spiders. Um, she is mixed race. Her mother is Tamara Wilson, although her not Tamara. Well, yes, her name is Tamara Wilson. Now she's married. Her maiden name is Tamara King. However, as you will find during the course of these books, her mother has a more intricate link with Lethbridge Stewart's own history, but I'm not going to spoil that too much for you guys. You need to check it out. So yes, Lucy Wilson, mixed race girl. Um, she's got two elder brothers, Nikki, who is currently at university, so you will hear from him occasionally, and Connell, who has been in a few books. He's the eldest grandson. Well, he was the eldest grandson of Lethbridge Stewart, but Lethbridge Stewart's got a huge, much bigger family, like African relatives, thanks to Ben Aronovich's Transit book. Anyway, digressing. Lucy. Lucy was raised in London until she was about 12. And then, because her father got a new job, they moved to a little place in Wales called Ogmore by Sea. And bear in mind, she's a London girl. She's not overly impressed about moving to this quaint, sleepy little seaside village. Only, of course, once she gets there, she realizes that trouble is afoot. And trouble is always afoot, as she is constantly dragged into adventures with her own little sidekick called Hobo, the nickname for this character called George Constantin, who has got alopecia. Some people have remarked that they look a little bit like Bill Potts and Nardole from Doctor Who, but that is entirely coincidental because they were devised just before these two characters appeared in Doctor Who. They came about on the printed page after, because obviously things take a while to develop. And indeed, I remember in the original artwork, not Nardole, Hobo was a little more on the larger side. So I suggested he get shrunk down to a more thinner size so the connection wasn't too apparent, even though it's not actually Nardole and Bill, then Lucy and Hobo is the opposite way around. But obviously the perception will be different because Lucy and Hobo came second to the public, even though they were developed first. So in the sleepy village of Ogmore by Sea, she gets caught up in loads of adventures because her heritage is Lethbridge Stewart, and she's always getting involved in what she calls Lethbridge Stewart things, feeling the need to fulfill her grandfather's legacy. What has she encountered? She's encountered the Great Intelligence. She's encountered the Bandrolls, yes, the glove puppet monsters. She's just encountered very scary clowns. She's encountered ghosts. What else has she encountered? If I just look at the covers that just happen to be on display. She's encountered strange things at Monknash. I think that's what it's called, someplace in Wales anyway. She's encountered Shakespeare. And she has also had this wonderful crossover adventure with her grandfather, which is also a Lethbridge Stewart book and a Lucy Wilson book, called The Bledo Cadets. And of course, this one, which was a charity anthology for the NHS, set during lockdown. There's loads of reasons to buy these books, even if you're more mature or a reader. Although written for kids, you can get a lot of enjoyment from, because they're very well realised characters, well developed, great stories, wonderful links to Doctor Who. Most books open with Lucy hearing a relevant tale from her grandfather about unit past. Lots of good fun connections, and I honestly think they're a solid, good read. If you can read, say, the younger of the Doctor Who books, certainly the New Who books when they first started, they were aimed at a much younger audience. If you can read those and manage, and fine. If you can read some of the younger 13th Doctor novels, there's been Target novels, to be fair. A lot of the earlier ones were written for a much younger audience. If you can read those and enjoy them, if you can watch the Sarah Jane Adventures and enjoy that, which is tonally very similar to the Lucy Wilson mysteries, then I absolutely recommend you read these books too. And what we also do, just to hopefully get a few people interested, is every year we start doing a crossover event. The first one was with Lethbridge Stewart in the aforementioned Lucy Wilson and the Bledo Cadets. This last year we've done a crossover in the Bloodlines Lethbridge Stewart range, where a alternative version of Lethbridge Stewart ended up in a parallel Earth and met a alternative version of George Costanen, the man who would become Hobo. And in the next year we've got another crossover planned, but I'm not going to tell you what or how that is, but it's been written by John Peel, so if you follow my Twitter you may have a inkling, which should be fun. So highly recommend these books. I've only read them in so much as continuity editor, so I've only really skimmed most of them. They are on my list to read properly soon, which I shall be doing, but I heartily recommend them because I know the authors involved, I know the characters, and if you like Doctor Who, if you like good adventures, if you don't like Doctor Who and just like a good adventure set in Wales mostly, worth reading. So yes, recommend, read these books.